Well, welcome to the S.E.M podcast. Today we're joined by Devine. This is Jack Bryce, and got up my co-host back, Zack Hewlett, and we'll get rolling here. So you've listened to him, so you know our format here. We start with, how you ended up in Scotland, if there's any story associated with getting your call, and then we'll kind of catch up on what you've been up to the last few years since, and then we'll go back and reminisce about the mission. So start us off with before the mission.
So before my mission, my dad was, at the time, he was serving on the state presidency. And so I kind of didn't have a choice really around what was next for me. As probably followed the way that I was generally. At home, it was we can't wait for you to go on your mission so that we have some space and some time away. So I did my parents a favor, but in all seriousness, throughout my teen years, I wasn't really sure within myself. I kind of knew it was an expectation, but it wasn't until I was probably about 17 that I kind of asked myself honestly, like, what are you doing, Ash? Honestly, you're working at McDonald's. You're making minimum wage. You're not really doing anything. What are you going to do with your life? And so I think at the time that the missionaries in the ward, we were in Nottingham First Ward in the Nottingham stake, as the missionaries would call it, and I think they were trialing Preach My Gospel. So it wasn't actually at that point an established program. So I had a sneak peek really of what the future of missionary work would look like. And they did their best really to get me out on teachers and give me some good examples to go for. And I remember just after a teach going home and kneeling down and literally just saying a prayer and just saying, like, is this all true? Like, is it worth like giving my life to this? And there wasn't a pillar of light or anything like that. It was just you have so much to give. That was pretty much the impression I had. And so I was like, okay, fine. And just put my papers in. Yeah, got them all ready. And I remember back when I had hair, I literally ran up after work. I had to get my photo taken. And I remember being in jeans. I grabbed a white shirt out the cupboard, and wasn't ironed at all. And I grabbed a tie, ran up to the local post office to get my photo taken. And I was like, oh man, my hair looks ridiculous. So I literally went into a public toilet, grabbed a bit of water, did the comb over, all good, ready to go. And when I took my photo, what I didn't realise was that was going to be the photo that was up on President's board for like the whole of my mission. And I found it. I actually found it in my. I dived into my journals, and yeah, it looks reasonable actually. But when I know the background of what the story is of it, and the fact that I'm in some random photo booth in the middle of town, scrubby jeans, and just not out of the toilet, but public toilet kind of water, comb with brush. It was, yeah. So, but papers went off, and I think that was around the September of 2004 that they went in. I think I can't remember when they came back. I'm pretty sure they came back around the November time. I think it was just before my birthday, which is the end of November. My grandparents were living with me at the time, or living with us, should I say, my parents, in like a granny flat on the side. And I remember the envelope arriving on a Saturday morning. I'd just done a late shift at McDonald's, so I was really tired, but everyone was excited about it, and I had to wait until my mum got home. And I was so tempted just to open it, but I respected their wishes and waited for them to come home. And I remember opening my call, and I was gutted. As most English, I remember. I think it was Pullen. I was listening to Pullen's interview, and yeah, it's just one of those missions where I had an older brother who had actually been called to serve in Scotland and Edinburgh as well. I think he was around the 2002 mark. I think it is potentially. I'm rubbish with dates and rubbish with names, so I've had to look things up. But yeah, so he'd gone to Scotland, so I kind of was hoping for a more exotic one. My older brother Jonathan, he went to Singapore, so I was like, that's what I'm after. I'm after something like that, not have to wear a tie. You can, you don't even wear your badge in his mission. It was just natural conversation and teaching. It was great. And so, yeah, got my call, but to be honest, probably about an hour or so later, I was like, you know what? A mission is a mission, and there's going to be experiences regardless. And they're going to be great experiences. So, yeah, I was pumped actually. I was really excited for it because I think I realised that after my mission, I'd easily be able to return. It's just depending on where I served, it's minimum 6 hours, 6 hours drive, which is nothing when you think about America, and that's a Sunday afternoon drive compared to some of the drives you can do. So, yeah, but that was me getting ready, and yeah, looking forward to going to Scotland.
Good deal. That's kind of a common theme too. So everybody from the UK has said, yeah, they were pretty disappointed to see Scotland initially, but then, after it sunk in a little bit, everybody ended up being kind of stoked to get going on a mission. So very good. So a couple years later, you came home, and what you been up to the last 17 years or so?
Wow. Well, after my mission, and we'll kind of touch on it because I had quite a unique mission experience in that it was a mission of two halves, and of two missions. And so when I finally was released as a missionary and was home, I just kind of came back and was a little lost, to be honest. It was because I had been home for 4 months and then gone back out to finish my mission. To come back and actually be fully released was really strange for me. I was no longer in limbo. It was actually you've finished, and now you can go and do what's next, sort of thing. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do at all, and just took work because Mum was expecting board, and I had to pay my way at home. I couldn't freelance off the fridge. So yeah, it was straight back into work and just trying to get my head back into living life after a mission. I was keeping in touch with you're gonna laugh at this, and there's no way around this. I was keeping in touch with one of the sister missionaries that I met on my mission in London South, and because, and I'll put this way, I got told to keep in touch by the mission president's wife in my last interview. She said, "Keep in touch with Sister Jones." So being obedient, I did. And so pretty much I was home in the August, I think it was July, August of 2007. And then 2008 in April, got married to Amber, and she moved over, and we began life as a married couple. And that was an adjustment in and of itself. You know how it is. It's like it's a transfer that will never end, and so it's you got to work through that. And we it was about a year or so before we welcomed our first child, Edith, and she's turning 12 in October of this year. we moved to where we currently are now, which is a place called Mansfield, which is about half an hour east of Nottingham, kind of the heart of Sherwood Forest. And we've been here. I didn't expect to stay here. Mansfield Ward was what we described as a coffin dodger ward, in that there was lots of old people that just refused to pass over the veil. It wasn't a ward that we felt that we would stay in. But 12 years later, I'm the bishop of it. So it's I guess that's just the Heavenly Father has his sense of humor and his plan for everyone. So
there you go.
But yeah, since we've been here, we welcome 2 other children. So we've got Finley, who's 10, and Oswin, who is 7. So they keep us very busy, and are probably the main reason why I'm so follically challenged as I am now. So I went through a series of worked for Vodafone, worked for a friend in telecommunications startup, but got made redundant quite soon after starting, really. And it was just before Christmas, and that was a real trial for me because I wanted to be the provider for my family, but just before Christmas got made redundant. And so it was hard, but took an agency job. I don't know if you remember, so in the UK there was an electrical retailer called Dixon's, but then it's changed names over the years to Curry's, so PC World, Curry's PC World, and now it's just Curry's. And so I took just an agency job there in the home delivery depot. And over the last 11 years, done various job roles within the business, and now I'm working as a project manager with the company, and I'm loving it, really. Yeah, and so I do that, and I also serve as a bishop, which 3.5 years in, and I still don't really know what I'm doing, but things are going well. Yeah, you're always learning something new. Certainly a humbling experience. But there's so much that's happened, but I think ultimately, I know that everything that has happened has happened for a reason, and has given me and my family just experiences that are just incredible, really, and have really strengthened our testimony as we've gone along, even though we probably didn't think that it was a spiritual experience at the time, shall we say.
Good deal. So have more young families moved into your ward, or are you still just God's waiting room there?
It's been crazy, actually. Just this past Sunday, another family said that they're moving into the ward. We've gone from the average age of about 80 something to much lower. So it's been interesting over the pandemic as well, because we really embraced technology, and we actually saw a growth in the ward over the pandemic. So it's been really nice to see. But yeah, loads of young families. We were the youngest for quite a while, but then things slowly started to change, and now I feel very much the old man of the ward. But it's in a good place, which is nice, and hopefully there's more miracles to come.
Good, that's great. All right, so we'll go back now. You can start the MTC if you want with Hewlett, or
the juicy bit. Oh man. So can I just say, first of all, I did listen to Osman's interview, and you've got it bang on as far as the experience, and I actually delved into my journal to see what I wrote about the MT experience, but I did enjoy the MTC. I did find it hard. I was super in love with some girl, and she was just a distraction. But of the experiences in the MTC, I genuinely loved it. And I read back and just saw some of the things. Actually, in one of my journals, Hewlett, you wrote in the back of it as we were leaving the MTC. So there was a nice note. So I'll take a picture and I'll send it to you.
Okay, I don't even remember what I wrote. That's crazy.
Well, I can read. You were really nice to me. Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, go ahead. I want the world to hear that I was nice to you because I felt like I was the biggest rod to you the entire time that we were together. So go ahead.
So, oh, divine child. That's how you started it. You've been so fun and such a poo this last 3 weeks. It's just a love sandwich there, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
I hope your next companion is better than I am. You're a great missionary. Just watch the false doctrine. And I to this day, I cringe at the fact that I just was like, I can't even remember what I said. I think it was something to do with eternal families, but I totally just said what I felt was right, and it wasn't at all. Doctrine. Important lesson, and forever have kind of ever since then have just been like, if you don't know, just say, hey, look, that's a really good question. Let's study that out together. But yeah,
oh, man.
I definitely watched out for the false doctrine. So you carried on. I know I will run into you up in Scotland. Thanks for being such a fine example to me and to the district. I'm sorry that you were hurt while trying to outdo me. I love that. So that was, I'll come on to that. Well, that was, you'll never outdo me. So your humility was just oozing. You didn't say, just kidding. You've been great. Good luck in all that you do. Don't ever forget that your don't ever forget that your farts stink.
Your farts do stink. My gosh,
that is quite the love letter.
There's a journal entry about the fact that we ate boiled eggs, and it was just horrific.
If you remember, not only was it yourself, but Elder Loganberg, for whatever reason, he's just a different animal in himself, and so we had quite a few experiences when it came to flatulence in the MTC. I can remember that. My gosh.
But I mean, the MTC was great, even up to the point where I rolled my ankle and completely knackered that up for the rest of my life. But you know, you were kind to me. I don't know if am I able to screen share? I want to show this photo because I forgot about this photo. I don't know if I can do it. Let's see.
What is it?
It's a photo of you looking after me.
Serious?
Do you have a presentation option?
I think it's going to let me. Oh no, it says it can't. But I will, as an afterthought, maybe you can edit it in. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's me on in the MTC on a hospital kind of bed thing, with my foot all bandaged up, and you fluffing the pillows underneath my foot.
Try it now.
Oh, look. It might be my side actually.
I made you a co-host, so you should have more privileges now.
I think it's more to do my side, if I'm honest.
All right. Yeah, just send it. Just send it to us.
I want to know who took that picture because I'm trying to think who would have taken it.
I think it was whoever the doctors were. I can't remember who the doctors were. I'm just looking. I totally forgot about the photo until I dived into my journal. And it was. I'm pretty sure it was whoever the doctors were.
Oh man. Was that when we played basketball in the stake center there, or were we playing football?
We were doing volleyball.
Oh, it was volleyball. That's right.
I jumped up to spike the ball, and as I came down, just rolled my right ankle, and there was a few choice words that came out. But I'm just like, oh my goodness, that's the end of my mission. I thought I'd broken my ankle. It was just horrific.
Man.
It was just tendons, but I say just tendons and ligaments. It's just that. It's just no big issue. The Lambs, Sister Lamb, Elder Lamb, I think they were the doctors.
I think you're right. Yep.
But there's another picture of her telling me off about not keeping my foot upbeat as well. But yeah, that was mad because that happened, and I think it was less than a week before we were due to ship out to Scotland. And I was like, there's no way that this is happening. But I had a blessing, followed the directions of Elder and Sister Lamb, didn't listen to the NHS doctor who was like, you're not going anywhere, you need to come back in a week or so. But I just got an air cast, wrapped it up, had an air cast, and off we went. But yeah, the MTC, they must have increased their costs of bread whilst we were there. Hewlett, my goodness, I have never seen someone demolish as many slices of toast.
Well, I mean, you think about it, sitting in a desk and learning all day and not being able to, like, I grew up with always having like a snack next to me, something to nibble on or whatever. And so when it was mealtime, I knew that it was mealtime. And if I didn't get to my fill, there's no way that I was going to be able to sneak down there and get a snack later. So I made sure of it. There's no way that I was going hungry.
Yeah, you definitely made it apparent that you didn't know when your next meal was going to be. I remember you. I think you started off, and I think you're the first person I ever knew that had like courses to a breakfast. There was like a first course, a second course, because there was toast, pancakes, cereal, and yeah, I was impressed.
I mean, there was no reason not to, right? It was, you had everything at your disposal. Why not have everything that you could have ever eaten in your life? It was like a glorious hotel.
I just remember the meals it would start off on the beginning of the week, one meal, and then the next day would be the leftovers from the day before, but in a different meal. And you just kind of went, and you were like, I'm pretty sure this is Monday sausage, but it's like been ground up into some sort of casserole on Thursday. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
But yeah, MTC, and it was a hard transition because like you were doing lessons until late in the evening and just wasn't used to that at all. And some of it I was just I've never been overly academic, and so it was, although it was gospel material that we were learning about, I did find it hard for that period of time every day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but yeah, I definitely don't refute the locking of the door. Whilst me and I knew there was someone else, and I looked at my journal, and it was Pilkington. And there was me and Pilkington, because he even wrote in the back of my journal as well, like about that time. But yeah, it was us that we were chatting, and I mean, I'm still in touch with Sister Dance, Lindsay Dance.
Oh wow!
Because it was a genuine friendship. Like, really got on well. But yeah, that night, just when you clicked that door, and I was just like, really?
Well, wasn't Pilko in a different bunk room or something? Because we were in the room with like Cotton Betteridge and Elder Heaton, right?
Yes, yeah, and as a result, Pilkington had to off, because thankfully they didn't have a full room.
Right.
They had a spare bed for me, so he put me up for the night, and I just remember it being. I thought it was a good night, but apparently that's the night that I found out that I snore. Because Pilkington told me in the morning, he's like, "Yeah, you're going back into your room. You're not staying there again."
Oh my gosh!
Do you remember the prank that Cotton Betteridge and that played on us? With the alarm.
With the what?
With the alarm clock.
Oh my gosh! Now that I'm thinking about it, I do remember it. What time did they set it for?
It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I remember it went off, and I'm like, no, there is no way that it's time to wake up. Like, my body, everything in my soul told me that it was not the right time to be waking up. I was like, no chance. So I'm like thinking, like, where the heck is it? Because it wasn't my alarm clock, but it was just that annoying one, which was like the da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. And you're just like, I hate you. And so I just remember feeling enraged that this alarm was just constantly going off. and I couldn't find it in the darkness at all. I was walking around the room and it was getting quieter, and I'm like, okay, so it must be over here. Walk back across, it would get louder and then get quieter, and I'm like, I'm about to lose I lose it big time. And so I turned on the light. By this time, you'd rolled out onto your knees and started praying.
I completely forgot about that.
So you were like, oh, morning. You're saying your prayer, and I'm like, nope. And so I switch on the light, and I'm looking around. You're still saying prayers. I'm looking around, and then I hear, and he's like, right, it's here. Like, this is where it's loudest. I'm looking around, and I look up, and there's just this black square shadow in the light. And the light is like one of those ones where it's like a plastic cover that just sits there. And what they've done, they kind of pushed it up and tucked the alarm clock on the inside. Oh my days. I found that, turned off the light, got back in bed. Now, I can't remember if you just went to the toilet or whether you went and actually had a shower. But you came back and you were like, oh, right, it's time to get up. I'm like, dude, they played a trick. It's like 2, 3 in the morning. And you were just like, you were not impressed. And you just got back in bed and you were like, but yeah, that was my kind of get back on you locking me out. Because I was like, I'm just going to let him do his thing. He can say his prayers. He can go for his shower. He can think he's about to get his 7 slices of toast. But yeah. but yeah, the empty. We played hard and we worked hard at the same time, didn't we?
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. That's too funny. And the reason why I wasn't more thrown off by it is because my body clock was completely out of whack, right?
Yeah.
You know, I hadn't figured it out just yet. And I think that was probably maybe 2.5 weeks in. Did you do that at the end? Or was it early on?
I can't remember because looking at it, there's gaps in my journal. So I'm sure it was after you locked me out of the room.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was a little. Once everyone had kind of settled down, they kind of got a feel for each other. Better, probably, those guys probably were like, they won't actually beat us up if we do this, but it'll be funny. So it was probably near the end of MTC, but. But
looking back on it, I probably went to the toilet, and more than likely I took my shaving kit and everything and probably had a shower because I had no idea.
Oh man,
too funny.
It just makes me feel so good inside.
I was clean shaven, and then I went back and had a few hours nap.
Yeah, it was a great memory. But, there was all the elastic, the exercise bands that they get that were never used for exercise. I remember catapult being created and stock balls being used. I'm pretty sure it was Pilkington that we got, where our door was opposite their room and the door was open. Someone knocked on his door, he opened it, and they just unleashed it, going right where you don't want to get it. And yeah, he wasn't impressed, but hey ho, you give big elastic bands to young men, what's going to happen?
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See, and so here's my thought is, for me, I was less of a joy to be around in the MTC because they had stuck me as the district leader, and so all of a sudden I had to be like the shining light of an example to everybody, and immediately it drew the enthusiasm and joy out of my life, and so I was more of a stickler and less of a a joy to be around sometimes, and so I apologize for that.
Oh no, I get it. Everyone's trying to, at the MTC, you're just trying to find your feet, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into this whole new world of things, and you're just trying to. I think that's where I realized quite quickly that I was called for my personality, and I wasn't going to fit into a cookie cutter missionary. And I think I learned that very quickly. but yeah, certainly my memories of the MTC, the only, not negative, but the only one I look back and go is, he locked me out of my room, a companion, like he's supposed to, but that's it. Everything else, like, it's great memories of the MTC and everything else. It was just funny how, even though we kind of visited, I think we went out and we visited real families in the area, still very much a very not real scenario situation kind of thing. Like, everyone accepted the invitation to be baptized. All your commitments went through. And so I think from that perspective, it didn't necessarily set you up for the reality of a mission, and especially a mission in Scotland.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very much true.
Yeah.
And good memories.
So do you have any other memories of me in the MTC that can be shared?
I mean, I remember a few times trying to keep the class in order, and you're sat next to me and you're just like half asleep. Like I had to nudge you a few times or kick your desk, and I was like, "Come on, you're supposed to be a better example because you're on the right time zone, and I should be in bed right now, and yet I'm driving the ship. Come on." So
I'm pretty sure I wrote somewhere that I even fell asleep on the floor in one of the lessons in the MTC.
I think I remember that.
It was like an evening lesson. I don't know what we were doing, and I don't know whether we were meant to be on the floor, but yeah, tiredness just hit me. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was all the spirit. It was all the spirit. It was just exhausted.
That's right. All the warm fuzzies make you tired. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Too good.
All right. So take us to Scotland now.
Oh man, Scotland. So Falkirk was actually, I guess the journey up was more like a Hogwarts trip, wasn't it, on the train through the rolling hills. Even though I'm from England, never been to Scotland, so this was like, I was up against the window like an excited puppy, just like, whoa, this is amazing. Rolling green hills, and then you roll into, I think it was Waverley. Was it Edinburgh Waverley? Yeah. So that was amazing, the trip up. But yeah, obviously my ankle was busted up bad, and so I was kind of battling that side of things, and I was still on an insane amount of medication, pain meds, just to kind of keep it. And I had an air cast on, so I was having to take it steady. But I remember arriving, and it was just a buzz to be there. Like, I'm out of the MTC, I'm here. This is it. But I remember, the getting to the B&B, getting sorted there. I can't remember if we then went to the mission home for like an evening meal. I kind of have a feeling that there was a big table, and there was a dinner that Sister Vriens put on. I think it was like chicken enchiladas or something like that. And I just remember thinking, this is the beginning of something good. So yeah, that was quite nice. And yeah, so we're there. B&B, then there was the struggle of up Pratt's Hill. That was a real struggle for me. I rolled my ankle like 6 times more. At the time, I was just like, well, I've got to do this. Just get on with it. I'll be blessed. Everything will be fine. Not thinking about kind of the future and the damage I was probably doing to my ankle. So dedicated my mission at the top of Pratt's Hill. Amazing experience. Really good start of things, and then that's what I found. Then obviously we did the whole piece where Pattenden was my trainer, and that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship there. But just got a little visitor. Come on, bed. I'll be there in a minute. The joys of parenthood. So, where was I? Yeah, so Pattenden, what a character! Just larger than life in every way, and just an amazing start to my mission.
Did you whitewash into Falkirk, or was he there already?
Yeah, this is where my memory fails, because I was just like, woo, like, you know, when it's just a bit of a, everything's amazing, everything's great. That's
all right.
I can't, to be honest.
We'll ask him.
Yeah, he'll know without a doubt. But I just remember being there, and you know, that was cool because we had a house. I always thought that, you know, missionaries lived in flats. That's it. But you know, we rocked up and we had like a 3-bedroom house. And I was like, woohoo, this is awesome. But I remember about that house. There was the Scooby-Doo cutout that everyone signed. So that was pretty cool as you go in. But yeah, Pattendon, absolutely loved him. What I liked about Pattendon was that he was such a hard worker, but he accepted that that missions were hard and that it took a toll in every way. And he was just honest as well. You know, you had good days, you had bad days, and you just kind of you kept going and doing what you could, whatever the day was. But you know, I'd remember he'd get up in the morning to exercise, and he'd do skipping downstairs. And you know, he's a big guy, and so like you knew when he started exercising, and so I was like, right, I'm gonna have to go and start exercising myself. And he introduced me to microwave kebabs from Iceland. Oh my days, never. You know, I know that we didn't get a whole lot of money on our mission, but microwave kebabs, I was like, this is a new low. This is a new low. Like, even when you threw on extra sauce and lemon juice and everything else, it's like, it doesn't matter. This is actually killing you. This is not good at all. But you know, we worked really hard, and I remember him falling asleep on his knees every night, same prayers, on those tiny single beds upstairs. And Bryce will remember those beds, yeah. And they're just tiny. But he'd fall asleep. It'd be like 1 a.m. that I'd hear him kind of get up and kind of complain. He's like, "I've done it again," and you know, and I was like, I don't get it. But I found myself it happening to me not long after, to be fair. Because you just get to the point where you kneel down and you find that right position when you're saying a prayer, and like sometimes you don't get to finish your prayer, but you're comfortable enough to just drool all over yourself, you know, and then have a good nap until it's time, until you can't feel your legs and you kind of wake up.
Jeez.
But yeah, that Falkirk was a great area. I think was a really good first area for me. No, I don't think we did whitewashing, because if I remember rightly, the ward had, we may have whitewashed. Basically, the history in the ward, they'd had missionaries, and there wasn't a great relationship between members and missionaries. And because I remember Pattendon saying, look, we've got a bit of work cut out of us here, because we need to build a relationship with the ward, build a bit of trust and everything else. And so we did a lot of work with the members around just, you know, letting them see that we've got a personality, but we want to work with them, work hard. And you know, we were going to so many dinner appointments. Like Pattendon was a master of arranging. And I don't think I ever had it in any other area where we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner appointments on the same. And he never used to tell me either. I read one of my journal entries where I'm literally just talking about the fact that the day started great. We went for a breakfast appointment. It was a Polish lady, and she cooked up some traditional kind of fried foods. And, you know, she kept loading us up, and I came away feeling like proper full, like to the point of not being able to move. We went and did some contacting. That's fine. And Pat was like, yeah, we're just going to now go over to some family. And I'm like, okay, cool. And when I get in there, and as soon as I get through the door, I could smell food. And I'm like, oh, no, I can't do it. I can't do this. And he just looked at me, and he was like, are you hungry? And I'm like, no, I'm not at all. So, but we sat down, and I think it was like, if I remember right, it was like spaghetti bolognese. It wasn't even like sandwiches or something like that. It was a proper meal, and middle of the day, and I'm like, I had the sweats big time. I'm just sat there, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. And like, down. So I'm like, I can't offend this sister. Patton's like, woof, gone. And he's like, onto the conversation. And I'm like sweating like a beast in the corner, just trying to finish this. And I get through most of it. And then, but I'm like, if I sneeze, if I get up wrong, this is just all going to come up. Like, I am full to the brim. So we leave that house and we go on. And he's a little munt, because we went and did a few more things. I can't even remember the word. This is how much it's traumatized me. I've forgotten everything else. It's just these dinner appointments. We arrive at this member's house, and I'm like, I just had that bad feeling. I just had that feeling that things were just going to go worse. And especially after he knocked on the door, and Patton just turned around, and he just gave that cheeky smile that he has. He just smiled at me, and I'm like, I hate you. We go in, we sat down at this table, and there's like a 2-course meal. And I'm just like, I'm sat there, I'm doing the sway to try and compact down what's already there. I'm like, can I have a glass of water? And I'm praying that I can at least eat a decent amount that I'm not going to cause offense. But oh my days, yeah, he was good at that. And that didn't happen once. That was a few times that he did that, but he gave me a bit more prep next time.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was Brother Gibb, the ward mission leader, absolute nutter and legend all at the same time. If I remember rightly, do you remember Alex? He was. I don't know whether he did it when you were there. He would come over, and we'd have correlation at our place. And he would cook us like a Scottish breakfast. So there was like the haggis, the Scottish taters, and things like that. But
I never got that.
Okay. Sorry. But yeah, they were awesome. And he did a lot to help us with getting the relationship with the ward again. But yeah, I think I was introduced to Enya in Falkirk as well. That was where kind of, I don't know whether it was apostate music or not, but it was it certainly helped calm me down some evenings. Nice little Enya and some panpipes.
I can assure you that I was introduced to Enya by Elder Bryce.
Yeah.
You may have introduced me to it as well then.
Maybe. And I was definitely fed well in that ward. That's where I started gaining weight. That was a year into my mission. I didn't gain a pound the first year. Then from there, starting in Falkirk, from the end, I gained 3 stone. So
yeah,
that just tanked my metabolism, I guess, being in that ward with the.
You can thank Pattenden for that, because he totally relationships with the.
I think Streeter too, because he had a bread machine. So.
I remember it was snowing quite heavily as well, and I think that was with Pattenden. But that we built like a full-on snowman in the front garden and put one of our badges on it and dressed it up, sort of thing. But I think it survived probably about an hour and a half.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
But you guys had tremendous success there too. When I got there, it was the biggest teaching pool of my mission, probably.
Yeah, it was, and I think it was because we went back to basics with the ward. We weren't at all chasing numbers. Although I can't remember if Pattenden was district leader or not. I think he might have been. So, but yeah, I think Falkirk was where we kind of went back to basics of just getting to know people, and that stuck with me through the rest of my life. Where when it comes to missionary work, is just like, don't have an agenda. Just your only agenda is to get to know someone on a genuine level. and then you start from where they're at. And I think that's what we did in Falkirk. Some may at the time, some may have looked and said, "Well, you're not really doing much missionary work," because I think I never liked knocking on doors. I always thought we were an inconvenience to the majority. And I know it's all about the one, and I've had experiences on the mission around, just that one more door principle that you were talking about, Bryce. And so, I get that. But I think in Falkirk, we just needed to connect genuinely with the members and with the people who were in the board. And we trawled the area book and just went back through it and kind of built it from there. I do remember Chris, who loved frogs. He got baptized. He was a strange character.
Yeah.
Like,
he was infatuated with My Chemical Romance. I think
that
starts to paint the picture.
Yeah. And man, I mean, I loved him. He was great. He was a great character. But yeah, he was a bit worrying sometimes. But no, some really good characters. So there was Chris, there was Roddy and Jane. So Roddy Kirk, who just come out of prison actually, but during his time in prison, he kind of reconnected with the church, and the girl he was dating, he actually introduced to the church, and we started teaching her, and she ended up being baptized as well. And so yeah, we saw some really nice successes in Falkirk by way of just connecting genuinely with people and taking it at their pace as well.
Yeah, all those. So she got baptized, and then Chris got baptized as well. But all of those were member connected. Like they were either really good, close friends with member families, or
now. Because I'm pretty sure, I can't remember which one it was. It must. There was a baptism. I'm pretty sure it was when you moved in, because I was like, okay, Pandem's gone. I've been here the longest. I've got it. This has got to go right. And I'm pretty sure that the baptismal font wouldn't fill, and we had to fill it with a hose pipe from the kitchen tap, and it was cold water. I have a memory, and I can't remember who that was for though. But I just remember panicking because I was like, "This is not happening. It has to be perfect." But yeah, that was. I think
it was Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've got a pic. Because I think Jane was first. Because I've got a picture with Pattenden with Jane. So with Chris. Yeah, that was very cold water. But yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better start, to be honest. Two great companions, not just because you're on now, but I just remember you being. I had to adjust. You were very different to Pattenden. And so, because you were very reserved from what I remember, I think when you first arrived, I was like, you were almost like the disapproving dad. It was like, you didn't say much, but you said it in the way that you looked at the people. and I did, at first I struggled to kind of like transition from Pattenden, but I think I very quickly realized that you've got a mean sense of humor. And yeah,
you introduced me to the fruit cake that was not good for eating, but good for squishing up and making into a fake poo to put out on the sidewalk in front of the house.
Wow, yes. Yeah.
And, just watching all the people walking their dogs and stuff down the street and trying to keep their dogs from eating it. That was great.
Yeah, it's like a Sorin bar. Sorin bar is like a raisin fruit.
Yeah.
You squish that thing up and, that. Yeah, I remember that. And I was going in my journal, and there was an experience of a door that we knocked on, and this guy, apparently, I wrote it down word for word, actually, which is quite funny. He answered the door, and we did our kind of introduction piece. And then he was like, you're wasting your time. This is a house of Satan. And you just pulled out one of the temple pass-along cards, and he was like, oh, cool, that's great. This is a house of the Lord. And the guy just looked at you, and he was just, shut the door. and Oh man, I just busted up after that. Just I was like, I like this guy. But yeah, didn't we rewrite Mockingbird or something? Did we rewrite a song with like church lyrics or something?
That would make sense. Yeah, Mockingbird.
Yeah, typical Eminem song. Let's make it right.
Yeah. There's only one swear word in that whole song. So.
What, the one we wrote, or Eminem's?
No, Eminem's.
Yeah.
Still listen to it with my kids. It's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. Oh man, just honestly, just so many things that happen that you just don't think about every day. But this absolute journey, the last 3 or 4 days,
probably my favorite memories of Falkirk were the McFeast every Sunday.
Yes,
McFeast.
That's in my
Simon. Like I've never ate better in my life.
It's called a McFeast for a reason. It's
legendary, so good. And I would come out of there just filling stuff to the rafters every week, for sure.
I'm trying to remember. That was the one with the 2 single elderly sisters, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pattendon. First time we went there. Thankfully, that was one he prepared me for. He didn't just feed me to the absolute limit and then take me over. But when we went there, such the sweetest ladies they were, sisters, absolutely. But then afterwards, when they were like, you go sit down, we'll tidy up and everything. I remember going into the living room and he just laid down on the floor, just like Fred Eagles, beach whale in the middle of this sister's like living room floor, and he went to sleep. First time that I'd been there, didn't know the sister. I'm sat there and I'm like, and he's just like gone. Like he could just switch off like that. Sleep time. And the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure I did that when I took you for the first time. I was like, it's my turn to nap. It's my turn to lay down on the floor now. Had the meal, like, you just sit over there. And then I remember just laying there, and then they'd come through, and she'd be like, is he all right? I'm like, yeah. And then we'd share a message and leave. But yeah, because if I remember right, it was just like chips and dip was the starter piece. Then it went on to like fresh fruit and Greek yogurt. Then it went on to like a main course, and then
soup, then a main course, then
soup, main course. Yeah. Now you know why you put the weight on.
Yeah. Oh, I know why.
Yeah. No, and it's been quite nice actually, because I've been able to with my work. I look after I look after projects that are within the home delivery depots for the north of England and Ireland and Republic of Ireland, and so there's been a few times where I go up and I'm in the Glasgow area, so I'm not too far from Falkirk. So there are times that I just drop across when I'm travelling and revisit. To be fair, I've done that with a few areas, Invergordon, when I was doing a project in Inverness as well. So it's quite nice to be able to just drive through some of the areas and just think, wow, how did I survive being a missionary in these areas? You probably feel the same about some of the areas that you guys served in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we were together for 6 weeks. You were with Pattendon for 3 months, me 6 weeks, and then where did you go?
That was off to Cambuslang. After that was with Cade Schmidt, the Canadian. Yeah. So I remember that being during the summer, if I remember right. Yeah. It was red hot. And I remember I'm like, I'm not going on a bus. Like you're in short sleeve shirts, you like slightly loose collar there just for that extra bit of air to get down, you know. And I remember being hot, and I'm like, I'm not getting on a bus. That is just gross. I'm walking everywhere, and that's it. But yeah, I remember being super hot. I think there was a memory of some kids had broke one of the hydrants in the floor. They're not like in the States where you've got them above ground, but they'd managed to break it, and there was this massive water fountain going off, and I was just looking at Schmidt, and I'm like, oh man, can we just go walk through that? Like, we'll dry off. Like, we're fully clothed, but we'll dry off. It was that kind of warm. But I remember buying some like coconut sun cream oil, and I'm like, I'm going to work on my tan. Clearly, I'm not the kind of person that is good at tans, but yeah, at least I smell like a coconut walking around. But it was a fun time with him, and I think with it being my first area outside of my greenie area, it was a real kind of, you're on your mission now. You're through your greenie area, you're into kind of a new area, and it's over to you sort of thing. But yeah, I kind of got into the whole. There was the what do they call it? Memorizing all of the kind of the scriptures and stuff. Do you remember there was loads of stuff for us to kind of, was it the mastery or something like that?
Yeah, the scripture mastery program. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but there was different levels, right? You go through.
I knew that I wouldn't get past the first level, but I tried. I remember there's a picture of me. Kate introduced me to. He's like, you need to kind of switch it up. If you find things hard to memorize, try doing it upside down. And I was like, what? And so he would sit on a couch upside down with your head kind of back over the edge. And then we had a table that we stood on its end and stuck the thing upside down. So your head's upside down, but you're reading the right way. Never worked, but it looked good. But yeah, tried some new things. But he's the. I told this story recently, actually, to the young men in the ward around. You need to be prepared and know what you're doing in life. Because when you're on a mission, you're going to do laundry, you're going to do all sorts, and you need to know what you're doing. Because we did a clean of the flat, and Schmidt took the shower curtain, plastic shower curtain, washed it down and everything, and then stuck it in the tumble dryer. And I just remember him coming through, and he was just like, "We're going to need to go to the store." I'm like, "Why?" We need a shower curtain. I'm like, "What do you mean? We've got one." He's like, we did have one. And I went through, and on the back of the tumble dryer was just this melted mass of blue plastic just stuck to the back of the tumble dryer. And I was like, are you serious? But I soon came to realize that was just the way he rolled, because he took a knife to the ice in the freezer to break down the ice in the freezer, and stuck the lining of the freezer. And I'm just like, come on, got a thing. But it was a fun area for that, and I think we didn't spend a whole lot of money either when we were there, because there was an Aldi that was really close. And my weekly shopping consisted of tins of tuna, mayo, the little like fake Mars bars, and then a big pint of milk. And our meal was literally me eating a tuna out of a tin with a Titan bar and a pint of milk. That was all we had. And man, that must have been horrific in that flat. Like we probably a good thing we kept the windows open.
No cereal or anything? It was just tuna and.
Nah, man, you just like
breakfast of champions there.
Oh, exactly. You're a young man. You're like, I don't have to do this. Like, I know what I want. You don't have your mum telling you that. No, you got to eat. You got to have fruit in bed. And like that. That was one area where we covered the Gorbals, which was just our side of the river to Glasgow. And although we would go into Glasgow to contact on the street, I think it was Buchanan Street was the main one. because Canberra slang wasn't very good. I think it was we were called Canberra slang, but I'm pretty sure it was Rutherglen, which was the local kind of area that we were. But we covered the Gorbals, which was the high-rise flats where people died unnaturally, often. And so I remember there was a few times that we went down there, and there's ice cream vans there, but they're not selling ice creams because it's like 8 o'clock at night, and they're like, the ice cream van's out, and you're like, I'm pretty sure there's no kids out, and no one. I don't see any ice cream being handed over, but super dark area. But we visited there. There was a single mum there that was, I think she was coming back to church, and so we'd be teaching there, and there was a few referrals around that area as well. But that was one of those areas where I was like, I could have easily, like, that's one area that I would probably never go back to, because I'm surprised we weren't stabbed, to be fair. And in all seriousness, it's just super rough.
That's one of those areas that was closed occasionally just because of how rough it was, and like never sisters there, that sort of thing.
I remember I got Dear John's there as well, so I took it out by cutting the grass. We were the first floor masonette, and the downstairs person, we just like, well, we'll do the garden for you if you lend us the lawnmower. So I just remember being out there and just venting all my anger about getting Dear John by this distraction from the MTC, and kind of all the way through the first part of my mission. But yeah, so but that was a fun area, and I think one of the and Osmond kind of spotted it, because if I remember rightly, it was Osmond's greenie area.
Yeah.
And Maureen McFarlane, who they lived with, she was always just super helpful. I did my theory test kind of practice on P days. She lent the laptop to be able to do it, because it was like a practice thing on the computer. I remember she just like sorted out the root beer and all kind of like the just all the treats and everything else. It was just brilliant, and yeah, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I was really sad because when was it? Probably a month or two ago, just chatting to Osmond, he just messaged me when I was in some hotel with work, and we were chatting, and I hadn't realised that she passed away. So that was quite sad. But she was just absolute stalwart member, wonderful personality, wicked sense of humour, super faithful. Yeah, so she really supported us as missionaries and kind of kept us going. Love that. Yeah. But yeah, Schmidt, good guy. I liked him.
Yeah, I liked him too. We were together 4.5 months before that in Cumbernauld. So
yeah, because I remember the moves coming in, and you kind of gave me a bit of you got a good one there.
Yeah.
So yeah. Man. So after Canberra slang, I think I always get this one mixed up. I'm pretty sure it was Ingrid Gordon next with Parker Coons. What a guy! Did either of you serve around or meet Elder Coons?
I did. I briefly, but yeah, he was a good guy. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he was super quiet, super timid, but like he had a good character about him. I liked him with Gordon because we were back in a house, so it was like more space, which was cool. But it was really, I always thought it was funny because the house was right next to a distillery. So it stank so bad. White Mackay, I think it is White Mackay whiskey or something like that. But yeah, so it always smelled really badly. But it was right on near the water. So as you came out of our street, you were met with all of the oil rigs from the North Sea that had been pulled in for repairs and everything. So it was just a really cool place, and the drive up there was just beautiful over the bridge from Inverness up to Invergordon. So that was like my first taste of kind of the Highlands, so to speak, and I just loved that area. I remember the branch being in an old Methodist church that we hired, and it was weird because I'd gone from actual churches. I think that was probably the first experience of being at church, not in a church building that was an LDS one, and so that was a whole new experience. But we saw some success there. There was two sisters, Amy and some, I can't remember what her sister's name was, but we were teaching them for a while, and I think we had to do the baptism obviously in Inverness because there was no font where we were in Invergordon. But Conway reminded me of a sweet lady, Evelyn, that we would visit, and she was just awesome. And we'd go over and she'd be like, "Are you hungry?" And we're like, "Well, we can eat." And so she'd order in a Chinese or something, and we're like, "Sweet, take away." But yeah, that she was just for how old she was so young at the same time, in the sense that she was just, you'd be chatting to her and talking about experiences, and you just wouldn't think that, she was I think she was in her 90s. So, she was well on her way. But yeah, and the amount of travel, because the branch president lived out over at Ullapool, which was about an hour and a half, if not more, west, right on the west coast. And I remember we sometimes we would be like, "Oh, we should come over," because the drive was just stunning. And it's an excuse for just a scenic drive. And you're going through the hills, the highlands, the signs changed, it's all Gaelic and it's not very little English, and you just pull up at Ullapool and it's just a stunning fisherman's village, really. I remember the branch president just being a really cool guy, really nice family, really welcoming. And I think we had like a family home evening with them one night in their back garden, just had a fire, roasted marshmallows, and there was a really nice spirit about it, in that like testimonies were shared and stories were shared, and you just felt as a missionary that you could share personal experiences and kind of be real. Because I think you spend quite a lot of your mission where you are protecting yourself, or you're kind of protecting from showing too much of kind of your life experience that got you to there. And I think we need to do more of that, sharing our personal experiences. The whole point of life, isn't it? No one's perfect, and everyone's had their own kind of road. So that evening, I remember quite clearly being able to open up and just have a really good time with that family. But Elder Coons, I remember. I think if I was ever going to get murdered in my sleep, it was going to be Elder Coons. I think, and if he ever comes on, I love you. But at the time, I was concerned at sometimes. But I mean, he was awesome in his own way as well. I think he wanted to go running one day, and I'm like, I am not interested. Do I look like a man that is interested in running? And our house backed onto a playing field, and so I said, "Look, I'll stand at the window and I'll watch you." And he did, and it was so that was our agreement. I was like, "I can see you. We're not breaking rules." So yeah, so he would go for his run. I think that was an important time. But yeah, we spent. There was actually a sister there. I'm trying to remember. Anne Perry. She was an author, and she had written some books, and apparently she was somewhat famous author. And I remember she gifted 2 of her books to us, because apparently they're very closely linked with kind of the plan of salvation kind of thing. She's interwoven kind of a fictional story into almost a gospel storyline, doctrinal storyline of plan of salvation. So she gifted these books, and I remember that we kind of read them, and we were just going through them, and one night we just kind of sat there and we realized just how late it was. But he could go to sleep super quick, and I was always jealous of it. And he always slept with one pillow. I'm always cautious of people with one pillow. I don't know about you, but like 2 pillows, that's kind of the standard. He had one pillow and he slept on his back. And I remember that my second pillow became one where I held on to it. And as soon as he started, like, it'd be my right hand, because he was over on the right hand side on the other bed there. And we were so close in that room. It was literally like that between the beds. There was just enough of like a unit between them. And I remember I used to hold it, and as soon as I heard like an inkling of a snore, whack, just like, and it was perfect. I didn't have to reach or anything. It was literally, I just had to like move my arm over, whack him with the pillow. And our last words at night was, I'm like, you better not snore. I'm gonna beat you. So yeah, but yeah, I had a great time with him, and it was cool because we had a car. The only downside, if I remember rightly, it was one of the burgundy ones. So gross. I think it was burgundy Corsa. I think the only worst thing than that was the burgundy Marivas, which were the slightly bigger ones. I say bigger; they were still tiny, but.
I enjoyed the Mariva because it meant I didn't have to like sit on the floor to be driving. It made a big difference for my hips and my knees at some point.
Yeah.
It wasn't the prettiest car, I can tell you that.
No, it wasn't at all. It wasn't at all. I've got a memory of driving it near a golf course at some point with loads of missionaries in it. I can't remember where that was though.
Yeah, those were the ones you could fit easily 6 missionaries or more in. So
yeah,
a couple in the boot.
Exactly. It was great. Yeah, so it's Invergordon, great area for the scenes, and we would travel. We would we'd try and find how far north we could find someone to teach, so that we could. I think we got told off for our mileage a couple of times. I'm just like, whatever, man. We're doing what we're doing. But yeah, I and that was one area when I went back with work to Inverness. I visited a few areas in people whilst I was back up there, and it was really nice to be there. And if I remember rightly, and I think she's still around, there was a senior sister in Inverness called Sister Siegmiller. Is it Bonnie Siegmiller? I just remember going over to their place. There was a group of us. We went over and just like had games and had food, and it was just awesome. Really just so welcoming. It'd be interesting to hear from her.
Yeah, we talked to one of her companions, Sister Reed, just recently, and so that will be published here in the near future. But I'd love to get in touch with Sister Siegmiller because she was Sister Reed's companion when I first met them. Okay. So that will be one I'll try to get in touch with. I know it's not the easiest thing to get hold of some of the senior missionaries when it comes to social media and that.
She is on Facebook, and she seems to be probably one of the more active senior individuals on Facebook. So you might be all right. But
all right, I'll keep trying.
I do remember going down and it just being a really nice. And I'm pretty sure I got some photos from that day as well. Just trying to remember who else was there. Just that'll come to me, I'm sure. But after Invergordon, Shetland. Yes. Wow, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't even know that there was running water. I was like, is it even a house? You know, is there running water? Is it candles or electricity? It was really weird to not have any idea what I was going to. I knew it existed. I had no idea what was there. I was ready to like be bivouacking or something, you know, sleeping in a hammock in some sheep field or something like that, and going back to the basics, proper pioneer missionary style. It's just like, Shetland. And I remember it was a proper tuna can plane that Osmond took me back on the first time. Tiny plane, and it wasn't great weather, so it was a very bumpy arrival. But I remember we were coming into land, and I looked out the window and I could see street lights, and I'm like, sweet, they've got electricity. We've got electricity. It's like, we're good. We've got street lights. We're on. But what an area. And I think I just echo everything that Brandon said, really, because it was completely different missionary work up there. And I think it was more of the missionary work that I felt more natural with, which was literally just, it was more public relations, kind of community interaction, as opposed to kind of knocking door missionaries. And yeah, he took me out of my comfort zone with those flipping musical firesides. Like, I'm not a singer. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to sing. And I remember we were practicing for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'm like praying that I'd get sick and that I'd have to pull out. I'm like, Heavenly Father, please, like, this needs to be a really spiritual experience for who comes. So I need to not be in this. And we went ahead, and the nerves, I've never felt it. The nerves, because I knew everyone was there for Brandon. They were like, we know he's a great singer, and you know, we're gonna have that tag along guy that's gonna be singing with him. And there was a sister that came up afterwards, and she was like, I was really worried that you were gonna ruin it, but you actually did okay. And I'm like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, that's fine. That was my debut and my retirement all at the same time. But yeah, to this day, like, I just remember, like, because we sang His Hands, and yeah, to this day it still resonates. But we had a lot of fun. I actually messaged him afterwards yesterday, I think it was. I was like, what did we get in trouble for? Because I know he said we got in trouble. And I think it was because we just had fun. And the branch president, his wife, but more his wife, I don't think she believed that we were working as missionaries, because we were literally just having a good time. We got on really well. And we just enjoyed what we were doing. And you know, we would schedule time of literally just walking up and down the promenade, the main street, with the view that we would just say hi to people, and just ask her how their day is, or if there was tourists, we would, you know, offer to show them where there's some good stuff and things like that. And it was just a stunning place to come out of the flat, and you would come down to the water's edge, and sometimes there would just be a big cruise ship just off in the water, or there's a massive ocean like marine research ship that docked, and it was just so different. It was all step up from Invergordon. So instead of like oil rigs, there was just these massive ships, and it was just so unique and amazing. But Osmond made salsa once, and I've never felt more physically sick because of the smell of garlic than I did when he did that. Like, the salsa was fine, but the smell of garlic lasted right through to when I was training Hardy. It just it was in the walls, it was in the wood, it was in the carpet, it was just in my skin. It was just horrific. But hey ho, the price of good salsa. But yeah, he might not like me sharing this one, but we would have a competition to see who could do the longest pee. You know? And it just like, so we would stock up on water through the day, and when we needed to pee, it would just be like, do you know the scene in Austin Powers when he wakes up and then he goes to his first pee after being frozen or something, and it just goes on forever and ever and ever. I think that was inspiration, and we would time each other to see who could make. It had to be a constant stream, and it had to be a constant stream, no breaks, and man, that was some control. It's harder than you think, so don't judge. You go and try it.
What's the record?
Oh man, I might have to look in my journal for that one. But we're talking clear over a minute.
Oh my gosh,
it was a while. Thinking about it now, I can even remember just the tiny bathroom where it's just like door open, sink, toilet, shower, like tiny, one bedroom flat that we were in, and there was so much wood. It was like loads of wood. I loved it though. I absolutely loved it up there. But probably the most, whilst I was up there, my granddad passed away, and I was really close to my granddad. Like I said, they were living with us for quite a few years before I left, and my parents loved me enough that they had a picture framing shop when I was younger, and they would go to work and I would go and stay at my grandparents. So I spent a heck of a lot of time growing up at my grandparents, and so real deep love for them. But whilst we were on Shetland, he passed away, and that was an incredibly difficult time, because I think I just kind of settled into being comfortable, adjusted to Shetland, and kind of like head in the work, and then this happens. I think we had a zone conference not long after the news, and I remember meeting with President Vriens, and I was just like, I'd like to go to his funeral because he means a lot to me. And in the Vriens way, he just kind of looked, and he's just like, no, he's not there. Like he's with you where you are now. And as comforting as he probably thought that was, it just anger just inside. I was just like so angry. I'm just like, that's such a cheap way out. Like, this is my granddad, and it's incredibly important to me. But then he gave me a blessing, and to this day, just when he put his hands on my head, it wasn't President Vriens anymore. It felt like it was my dad. They gave that comfort blessing, and just the assurance that there was the scripture that came to mind of let the dead bury the dead, and come follow me in essence. And that was the kind of the message. And so back up to Shetland, and it was around that time that that Brandon's dad was being his dad, where he was kind of like breaking all the rules and coming over and stuff. And I honestly believe that was important, because the time that we spent when we came down for that, I needed that from a kind of a comfort perspective. We were around a family. Donnie wasn't Donnie. Donnie was a guy. He was a father to Brandon, and it was really comforting for me to be around that, to help me through quite a time where I was very resentful of the fact that I couldn't go home for my granddad's funeral. So yeah, it was really, really loved that time, and really important, actually. Yeah, good old Shetland.
That's great. And you trained up there too, then?
Yeah, Ren Hardy, Arizona boy, I think, if I remember rightly. The only water that he'd been on was wakeboarding in some Arizona lake. and so I remember, picking him up, and I just loved the smile that he had. He just had this like massive smile. His eyes just glistened, and he had no idea what was in store for him. He's just like, I'm a missionary. This is amazing. And I'm like, we're off to Shetland. And when I was explaining it to him, I could just see his eyes going, like trying to compute what was going to happen, almost like me. Like, I've got no idea what I'm going to. And yeah, I remember we got to Aberdeen for the ferry, and I loved the ferry. I genuinely loved it. Every time we got to go on, I was just like, yeah, ferry, that's awesome. But I even found it as well. We had to sign. I don't know if it's probably backwards, if I remember. So we had to sign this waiver, which was an adverse weather waiver, to say that passengers should make their own decision whether or not to travel based on the information provided. So basically, it's going to be bad weather, so you need to sign this. So if you die, you can't sue us. And it's like literally that. I was like, this is amazing. I've got a kid from Arizona who's never been on an actual body of ocean. We're about to go on a ferry ride for like 13, 14 hours overnight. And we're getting told this. So I'm like, just sign it. It's going to be fun. We're missionaries. We're protected. It's totally fun. And so he signs the waiver. We're sat there, and his legs go in, bouncing in the waiting room. I'm like, it's totally good. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So we get on, and he was very unnerved by the fact that the front of the ferry opened up for you to drive on. He's like, how does that work? Like, the boat opens. Surely the boat, like, how does it? So yeah, he wasn't too comforted by that. And so we have our even meal. We get into our cabin. We get into bed, and there's the kind of the rocking, and then I start to feel kind of the front of the boat kind of hitting the wakes, and then there was just this one boom, and there was a big rat, quite a loud rattle, and he just sat up in his bed. He's like, "Dude, are we gonna die?" Like, proper freaked out. I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna die. Like, you can swim, yeah." Didn't help, but he ended up. He's like, right. So he took some seasickness tablets and went back to sleep. But I think it was about 1 a.m. We must have hit where we go into the North Sea, where the two oceans meet, and it gets rough, absolutely rough. That was the area that they were saying you need to sign this waiver because of that area. And I remember going out, and clear night, sky's clear, no clouds, stars are bright, moon and everything. Not really that windy, but the waves, the wake and the roll and everything was quite severe. And I remember we were up on the deck, walking down the corridors was like in the movies, where you're kind of holding on to the side, and it's really, I'm thinking, sweet, this is pretty cool. We're out on the back deck just before they close it, and you're looking out the side of the boat, and at some point the top of the swell was kind of level to your eyes, if not a little bit more. Look down the side of the boat, and we're at angles like this. It's like tipping proper, and I'm like, maybe I should say a prayer. Like, this is getting a bit hairy now. And that was when the people came out and said, look, we need you to come inside, and we need you to go back to your cabin, sort of thing. So we rode out the rest of that night, and I just remember that I was like, what an introduction. What a first night for a greenie, man. Back to your first area. Like, just insane weather. But yeah, that was an experience and a half to train. I always thought Shetland was an incredibly mean place to train someone for a greenie. Like, if I remember rightly, because when I was looking at my journals, did Streeter get trained up on Shetland?
I think you might be right.
I'm pretty sure.
Wasn't he with Elder Drew, maybe?
I'm not sure who trained him, but I'm pretty sure I read that like Streeter got where he wanted to go. Apparently he wanted to go to Shetland. But I just thought, it's almost like an MTC experience again, because it's not the missionary work that you do everywhere else that you go.
Right.
So I thought it was hard. And I tried to explain that to Elder Hardy, but we did well. We baptized a lady there, Cindy, experience and a half, because it was in a hydrotherapy pool in the local community centre. So it was a bit weird, you're in your whites and you're like, you stood there in this thing and you've got men and women walking past in, swimwear and windows and looking and going, what's all that sort of thing? And you're like, she was awesome. So she was the mother of a family in the ward, the Leasks. And she was the grandmother to Donna Marie that Brandon mentioned. And so we've been teaching her pretty much the whole time we're there. And she finally turned around to her husband, who was the stereotypical fisherman. He smoked the pipe, he had the kind of the moustache, loved his whiskey, mouth like a trooper. And we just remember that, like, she was afraid to ask him for permission to get baptized. He said, just have faith and do it, you'll be fine. And apparently when she asked him, he's like, about time, flipping heck, you've been doing this for how long? Why aren't you already baptized? So that was nice to have that experience, especially with the green. And so we baptized, but I think probably the most interesting and yet not great experience was what Pullen messaged me. I messaged Pullen and I was like, I enjoyed your interview. And he's like, you got to tell us about the time that you sneezed and rolled a car. And I was like, oh man, I knew this was going to come out.
Conway said the same thing on Facebook today. He's like, tell us the story about, didn't you wreck your car in Shetland?
Yeah. Oh man, what a day. What a day. It was just one of those Sundays where we'd gone to church. There was an expectation that we were teaching. I taught priesthood, and there'd been quite an argumentative kind of lesson. And I had a headache, and I wasn't enjoying it. But the honest truth was that I was just exhausted. So we're driving down the south of the island to one of the members for, I think it was a dinner appointment. Driving along, and to be honest, genuinely, my eyes closed. The drive down there, it was dark, and it's just like, when you're just comfortable and your eyes get heavy, you think your eyes are open, but they're not. And that was the case. And Hardy's like, dude, and I looked out of my eyes, I'm over at the other side of the road, and I'm just, I don't know why I did this, but I pulled the handbrake. We're doing like 55, 60 miles an hour. I pulled the handbrake and corrected. Oh my days, worst thing I could ever do. So next thing I know, there's all bouncing around and everything. And then we're just like landing, we're still. And it was just that moment of, what the heck just happened? And, airbags are deployed and everything else. And I'm just like looking around, proper dazed. And for some reason, I just grabbed my camera and took a selfie. I was like, oh man, this is a journal entry. So I took a picture. And I'll have to find it, but you could just see in my face, like holy pants, what just happened? Airbags deployed and everything. I think my window bust out as well, and we're up on the bank facing the wrong way. And so I get out of the car and we look around, and I'm just like, okay, this isn't too bad. And I checked the tires, and I think the front one of the tires was down, but it seemed somewhat intact. So I was like, right, let's just see if we can move it down. So we got back in the car, it started back up, and we got it back onto the road. And I'm like, okay, we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, on the best of days, there would probably be one or two cars passing. So I'm like, there's no way anyone's going to be around. So we need to get back to Lerwick. So I'm just driving. We're just limping, driving like 10 mile an hour if that, all the way back to Lerwick in this beat up car. and I'm like driving, and then I'm like, oh man, my arm, and my left arm, I thought I dislocated it because it was just numb, and it wasn't broken, but I knew I'd hurt it. We got back to Lerwick, we parked the car up and just went back into the flat, and I'm just like, what am I going to do next? And then that's when I realised that Hardy hadn't been wearing his seatbelt, and the reason my arm was hurt was him coming across. And I've got a photo where like I had a bruise, like the whole of my arm here, where his whole body weight kind of like just came across. And there was an email to President Vriens to let him know that I'd had a slight accident. But it's interesting, I've got it in writing because I asked him about driving. I think you mentioned it as well, Hewlett, that driving in the S.E.M sometimes wasn't all that legal with people. And so I remember asking President about it. It was all done. Like, just be careful. I love that. It's just be careful. It'll be all right. But so the rest of our time we were just walking up there, and I remember being ticked off. I'm like, why don't we get another car? I'm like, I wouldn't give you another car after that either. So such a naive thought, wasn't it? So yeah, but I was really I wasn't. There were so many experiences up there. Like before we rolled the car, I remember we were coming back one evening. And there was a road closure, and the police were stopping people. I don't know what they were doing. They were stopping people and checking them. And I'm like, pants, I've only got a provisional. Like, if they, like, I'm done. Like, this is not a good situation. And we were coming up, I'm like, just, if you do a U-turn, it's going to make it worse. Like, they're going to come after you. So we just kind of went up, said evening, and then they just waved us through. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Goodness for that. Because that would have been a sticky situation. But yeah, I was there 6 months, and it was a hard 6 months because it was through the winter. So there was like times when there was zero daylight. It was dusk at best. But it was just a stunning place. And with Osmond, we went north once to S.E.M Cliffs, and it was just amazing. And we were so dumb as well, because we got down on our bellies and we crawled to the edge to look down over the cliffs. Oh, when I see the photos, I cringe even now. I'm just like, you're an idiot. Like, you could have just gone over. We could have just been blown over those cliffs. But we got good photos and a great memory. But I genuinely love that place, and I haven't had a chance to go back, so I'm super jealous that Osmond has, but it's on my bucket list to get back up there. But yeah, and I loved the chapel there because it was genuinely an old I think it was an old Methodist church, so it had the cross with the circle in stone on the peak on the front. It was then a newspaper office. And then the church bought it, and so they properly converted it so it had all kind of the sign and everything inside. So I loved that chapel. It was so unique. Yeah, it was good. But I never got to see Uphelia, which is like the biggest celebration whilst up there. I got moved off just before. Sometimes. Never mind. But yeah, loved it. Different type of missionary work, but still missionary work. It was great.
Yeah. What was next?
The longest transfer possible. I went Shetland to Galashiels, which is on the border. And so that was ferry. That was like ferry plane drive, or it's like every mode of transport. And we even stopped off at the mission home. I think that's where we almost got sent home because of the whole car incident. I remember getting an absolute verbal beating from President Vriens in the most loving way. But yeah, and then we went upstairs to the bedroom, which was like a magical place, because before then, upstairs in the mission home was just this mythical place that very few people got to see. But we got ushered into this bedroom where it had like dollhouse bedding, white beds, proper flowery bed covers and everything. And we spent the night there. And then in the morning got told, you're off to Galashiels. So that was, and then obviously in the morning headed off there. So that was February 2006 with Elder Smith, Clint Smith. And that's where my tie obsession got out of control. I loved my ties. The only variation that you could have as a missionary without getting told off by Sister Vriens, because if you did like funky socks, like you'd kind of get told, keep them blue or black. And what else could you show your character through as a missionary? So I chose ties. So I think I got to about 130 odd ties when I was on a mission.
Gosh.
I loved them. And Tesco and Asda didn't help, because they were doing ties for like £2 or £3, and it's just like, these are sweet. So I proper spent a good chunk of my mission money on ties. And after being on Shetland, the only place that you could get a tie was, I think, from a local fisherman shop. And it was only black. You could only get a black tie for a funeral. That was it. There wasn't the variety of everywhere else. So I had 6 months where I didn't get to buy a new tie. I think we came down for a zone conference, and we went to Debenhams, and there was just this wall of ties of every colour, every pattern, and everything. And I was like, I'm literally in heaven. And I bought a tie, and I spent like 15 quid on a tie, which, that was very expensive for a tie. But I wore it actually this past Sunday. It was a pink and grey paisley tie from Debenhams, and I loved it. But sorry, back to Galashiels. So Galashiels was, kind of with Smith. My tie obsession kind of got out of control there. But I think we went through a stage. I don't know whether he was struggling or not, or whether he was just a quiet personality. But we had an electric typewriter in the kitchen on top of the microwave, and for a good week, that's the only form of communication that we had with each other whilst in the flat. We would like type a message, he would come along, read it, type a response, walk out, and that was our thing for a little bit, which a bit weird, but it's funny. And I think I've got either a photo or I've got one of the transcripts, which was, we talked rubbish to each other, but it was fun. But we got snowed in there, and I think we got snowed in a few times on my mission, which was unique and fun. But the ward was a small ward, and I think it was struggling a little bit. But we had a baptism whilst we were there. It was the son of one of the families. So I think he was turning 8, and we taught him Joshua. And we had to fill the baptismal font, which was an underfloor baptismal font. I'd never seen one before. But they literally moved the chairs, pulled the boards up, and there's this hole in the ground baptismal font. And I'm like, oh, okay, where's the tap? They're like, oh, no, you don't have a tap. You have to fill it up, with buckets and stuff. I'm like, what? Are you serious? And so there's some great pictures of us with massive pans on the cooker trying to warm up the water so it wasn't cold. And we were boiling kettles and pans and everything. It took hours of us just pouring like pans of water into this baptismal font. But it was a great experience teaching Josh, because it was the first time we taught a kid, and it's a whole new experience because it was so innocent and sweet and just genuine, and a really wonderful experience to kind of see him through to his baptism. And incidentally, his little sister, after my mission, after I got married, they invited us back up. She wanted me to baptize her, so my wife and I went back up after my mission and baptized her. I left the filling of the font to other people that time, but I just turned up like the superstar and did the baptism. But yeah, that ward was fun because the elders. I remember going in and the elders' quorum was so they weren't connecting at all, and I walked in with a pink tie on, and they were giving the all pink tie. You know what that means? And you're like, oh my goodness, no, it doesn't. It means that I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm comfortable with everything, and I'm like, by the time I leave this ward, all of you are going to be wearing pink ties. And they're like, Howie, man, that won't happen. Sure enough, there's a photo of my last Sunday outside the chapel. I had to buy 2 of them a pink tie, but they put it on. And but yeah, there's a picture of us outside on my last Sunday.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. But it was again. It was just being genuine with the ward and actually kind of going, yes, I'm a missionary, yes, I'm teaching, but I'm a human being, and let's connect and let's see miracles happen when we allow ourselves to be genuinely who we are and not force ourselves to be a personality that we're not and that we're not comfortable with either.
Right.
But yeah, I like Clint. We got loads of pictures of it just, in the evenings, that downtime period where you're just messing around. It was awesome. I love that flat as well. There was like these 2 swords up on like metal, not sharp, but they were like decorative metal swords just up on the wall. And I'm like, who thought to let that stay in a missionary flat? So yeah, we were like, there was some reenactments of murder scenes and all stuff. we had a good laugh with that. But I remember that flat not having a shower either, so we had to have baths. And I was like, baths are just so old man. They take forever. And it's not like when you're a kid where you're like, after your brother, you can just jump in the same water. It's like, no, you fill that, you empty that bath, you scrub the heck out of it, and then you fill it up for me. Getting in scummy water. So yeah, it took forever. Oh well. I do have loads of spiritual experiences as well. It's not all just like, but yeah, I think for me, for the spiritual element it was genuinely being real as a missionary. And I know I wasn't all that, as a missionary, I wasn't all that kind of from the very start, it was like, I am who I am. And, I did try hard, but I did struggle at the same time. I really did struggle with kind of almost the pressure that you put yourself through, trying to attain being the missionary that you think that you have to be. And I really kind of pushed against that because I was like, that just isn't me. And I think that probably came across as apostate or not being a good missionary. But I just was trying to reconcile being honest with myself and being true to me as well. So hopefully I wasn't alone with that.
No, I don't think you were. I mean, ultimately, we all had to kind of find the element and our own way in which we could comfortably go about doing what we were doing, but being ourselves and using our unique talents and abilities to set ourselves apart, right? It wasn't a matter of just everyone being the same and being robotic. I mean, that's why each of us had different experiences, because we were all different.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Dallas Shields was fun. It was a good area. And like I say, we saw a baptism, and I think that was good for Smith as well. Again, I think, I don't know, when you've got a companion that comes across as someone who's probably struggling a bit, he'll just, sometimes you never really talked about it. You just kind of carried on. You didn't really. But no, I do. I loved all my companions, and yeah. But Galashiels, again, visited again since my mission. Loved the area. Loved the ward as well. But then on to Stirling. I think was my last area in Stirling with borders, Lao borders. I struggled in Stirling. I think I was struggling with mission life, and although I was introduced to munchie boxes in Stirling, which I don't know if you ever came across them. They were you missed out. Nice. You probably saved yourself from a heart attack, actually. So munchie boxes were like a pizza box that were filled with chips, chicken pakora, vegetable pakora, doner meat, chicken meat, just literally like piled up. And it was a heart attack in a box, but it was cheap. And we'd half one of those, and we just feel terrible about ourselves. But
sounds wonderful.
Honestly, I remember we having to walk so much that I proper messed up my foot with blisters, and I think that was my downside in that area, because there was a time where I couldn't go anywhere because my feet were so messed up. And yeah, I think I just really struggled with not having the routine of getting up, going out, and doing the work. So yeah, it wasn't. I never really connected with the area, if I'm honest. Probably because of that. Yeah, so I don't know how long I was there, but it wasn't long until then I went home.
So, so you went home, and then what was kind of the experience there? Like, you went home and you were you decided that you wanted to finish your mission, or what was the conversation that got you back out on your mission?
I think it was a realization that I lost my way, and that I kind of had lost the desire to teach the gospel. I got home, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of kind of working with my bishop, working with my friends and my parents, and just around reconnecting with the purpose of sharing the gospel, the purpose of a mission. All that stuff that I learned at the very beginning with incredible people, all my companions, you know, and I just remember sitting at home because I wasn't released. I was still set apart as a missionary, but when I went home, they said, you're still set apart, but you know, as far as mission rules and stuff, like, you don't have to be with someone all the time and things like that. So that messed my head up. That was just strange anyway. But yeah, I just remember being home, and I came back after church one Sunday, and I was just like, I shouldn't be here, which is weird because it was my home, my parents. And I just was like, I shouldn't be here. I have a work to do. I committed to do a work on the top of Pratt's Hill. I committed to do that. And I just remember, the experience that I had as a 17-year-old, where it was just like, you know, you have so much to give, and you need to get back there, and you need to go and finish that work that you promised and that you started. So yeah, I never felt at home. And so I spoke to my stake president, and I was like, I'm feeling like I've addressed where I needed to, and I want to go and finish my mission. And I remember him just looking at me and saying, like, you know, you don't have to, which I thought was quite strange. But then, as a bishop now, he was on the ball because I think he was very much aware of kind of mental health at that point. It wasn't really a thing back then. It was a thing, but it wasn't at the same time. And so I think he was very much aware of like saying like, you don't have to do this. Don't force yourself to do something if it's actually going to make things worse, i.e. push yourself to go back because you think that's the thing that you have to do. For people to accept that you've served an honourable mission. And so we had a really honest conversation there. But I was like, no, I need to do this. So he arranged an interview with Elder Johnson, I think it was at the time. He was the area president. And so drove down to Solihull. Scary, going to the officers there and having the interview, and just a wonderful experience and reaffirming to me as well that I was making the right choice. So I had the interview with Elder Johnson, and he said, okay, what will happen next is you'll get a letter, just letting you know around kind of the details. So, okay, so I went home, carried on trying to keep to a schedule, and keep saying I'm going back on my mission. I've got to sleep, get up, do your exercise. I think I still even had the elastic band at that point. So do your exercise, the elastic band, get back into the church, find the testimony of it all again, and just that burning desire to share it. And I got a letter a few weeks later. Opened it up. I'm like, okay, this is going to be standard. It's going to let me know what date I'm going back. And I was a bit apprehensive because I was like, oh man, I'm going to go back to Scotland, and then people are going to have questions and everything else, and like, how am I going to deal with that? Read the letter. You're hereby called to serve for the duration of your mission in the England, London, South mission. I'm like, what? Like, I'm going back to Scotland. This is wrong. And yeah, so I was called to the England and South mission for the remaining time of my mission, which was really strange and kind of threw me a little bit. But I was just like, whatever. I need to do this. It doesn't matter where. I need to do this. So just turned up and did it. I was in Reading, and it was whilst I was there, an absolutely incredible 4 months. And my answer to why I went there was I met people that have played a pivotal part in my life going forward. Heavenly Father literally picked me up from the most northern tip of England, put me through a bit of a refiner's fire at home to find myself, and then put me down in the southern part of England because there was people I needed to meet. That was my companion, Alex Taylor. Love him to bits. I visited him a few times, and we talk regularly. Absolute, I see him as my brother. Would never have met him had I not had this experience. My wife, she was a sister missionary in the district, and she was training back to back, and so I spent time, because I was district leader for a transfer, working with her companions, just helping them to build their confidences. And they did some amazing work. And through that whole experience, that period of time there, just completely changed everything. And so my testimony of kind of, you just don't know why things are happening. You just need to have faith, and you just need to keep going regardless. And when you do things that are right, Heavenly Father has a plan that you've got no idea about, but He's got your back. And had that whole thing not happened, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have my beautiful children. And it's just wonderful. So yeah,
that's great. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a message we all need to hear from time to time, right? Is even when life's not going as planned, or as we planned, the Heavenly Father has a plan. So it's very good.
And we see it with missionaries now. Like, there's such a stigma about going home early or going home and everything else, and you just got to. And this isn't because it happened to me, but I've seen it in other people's lives. Is that people have to have certain experiences to progress, and there isn't such thing as, that's how it's meant to be. Tradition says that a mission, you go out, you do this, you spend, for that duration of time. But reality of life is very different. But regardless, there's a love from a Father in heaven. But
well said. Well said. Well, just to recollect real quick in regards to going back to Scotland, what are some of your favorite memories of President Sister Vriens?
Oh man, he would take the wind out of me. I was a big guy, but he would beat the heck out of you when you had a hug from him, and he just boom straight in, and that whack on the back. You were like, I don't know whether he just loves me or whether he's trying to passively aggressively tell me I need to be better. Because he was a borderline. That's probably more me, if anything else. But yeah, hugs, and I think it was it? Oh, I think it was Spragg that was saying the other day that Sister Vriens, how she wouldn't look at you. It would be that the close of the eyes and kind of the shake of the head, and then the harsh truth. It was that just I creased when I heard that, because it just rang a bell big time. But everything that everyone shared really just around kind of the Miss Piggy and everything. But I think for me, President Vriens, the overwhelming love, and just kind of the willingness to listen as well. I kept as many of the president's letters that I could. I loved some of his letters, because they would never really address what you asked, but just be like, get on with it, and I trust you, and you're great. And he just kind of made you feel as if you could do it, even when you felt you couldn't. And he just knew you. I think it was weird. He just knew you. You'd sit in interviews with him, and he could just see through kind of whatever it is that you were trying to hide, as in struggles or anything like that. And he would I just felt like he could see straight into my soul, but in a non-judgmental way either. He just kind of allowed you to feel comfortable to be honest.
Right.
But I don't think anyone's mentioned it, but wasn't there the massive birthday cookies as well that would get handed out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, my memories are a bit blurred between Scotland and London South, so I kind of have to really question myself. It's like, is that north south? But yeah, there was the full M&Ms in this pizza-sized cookie that you were like, you couldn't wait for your birthday.
Yeah, we've had a few people mention it. I mean, I remember it after it being mentioned, but it wasn't a prominent memory, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I think I've got some photos of a zone conference somewhere, and there's a lineup where everyone's holding their cookie. And I loved zone conferences. You just got together with everyone, and everyone just wore I'm pretty sure there was a bit of a thing about wearing disgusting ties as well. You're trying to find the most horrific tie, whether it be colors or something, but just enough that you wouldn't get told off. But it was whether it was zone conferences or state conference, you would turn up at state conference with there was an unwritten competition around ties. But yeah, I'm just trying to think actually.
Honestly, as you were talking about your love of ties, I remember you were you told me in the MTC, your ties are hideous. Let me give you a good British one. And I still have it. I wear it often. Yes. It's one of my favorite ties. And I think it wasn't anything fancy or anything. It was a Tesco or a Asda tie, but it was still such a nice gift. And I think about that a lot. Every time I put it on, I think about you. And so it was a really nice gesture that nobody else gave me a tie. It was you. It was awesome.
Yeah. You'll have to send me a picture. I'm interested in the tie. Honestly, so many ties. Some of them I've got here, but when I went home, yeah, it was upstairs in Spidal Road. When I went home, I remember laying them out, the ones, because I couldn't fit everything. I was like, I don't need all these ties now. I remember laying out the ones I wasn't too fussed on. I can't remember who it was, whether it was, I think Dippold was an AP. I'm trying to remember who else it was, but I remember the elders that were there, they came up and they were like, oh, I want that one, I want that one. I just remember President Vriens coming in and were like, guys, I'm pulling rank. I'm having that one, and that one. And he like took all the best ones, and then everyone kind of took the rest of theirs. But yeah, so many ties. And I had that many that even after my mission, when we were in Mansfield, we had about 6 young men at the time. I gifted them each 5 ties at Christmas.
Whoa.
I still had loads left. And I'm like, I've got a problem.
You know, you could thank Tesco's and Asda for that. They just had so many good ties that were such a reasonable price that why wouldn't you buy them all?
And, you know, for guys of our stature as well, skinny ties don't work.
Nope.
And so at that time, there were ties that had a decent kind of width to it. So you didn't kind of the skinny ties just make me look way bigger than I am. And I mean, I'm not small, but
right.
Skinny ties are not good.
For sure, man.
I do have a question. I need to know where my tea book is because that is gone. I think it's probably completely. I'm hoping someone's got it in like a box somewhere, but I don't know where it is.
All right.
I need to put it out there. I think the last person I spoke to about it was Nettleship. I'm pretty sure I don't know whether he wrote in or whether there was someone else, but yeah, I lost track. And with me going home relatively quick as well, I just didn't know who had it or anything else. I'm a bit good because, you know, Bryce, I remember I think yours was quite a unique entry in my tea book and had patented and loads of other cool guys as well. So yeah, I'm a bit
we'll ask Nettleship about it because he's one on our future radar that we'll talk to. So we'll see if by some miracle he toted it about the rest of his mission and has it for you. He's just been waiting years and years to reveal it to you. That's too funny.
But there's a hope. You know, he may even just be if they've got any of the flats still. It would have been entertaining for someone that probably moved in after missionaries. They probably thought we were really strange.
It would be like digging out the gold plates. Oh my gosh. 2005.
Yeah.
Look at this.
It could be. I picked up a book in my first area that was from the 60s, Missionaries in Dumfries. So it does happen.
That's too good. Well, as we're continuing to carry on this, Ashley, is there any other missionaries that you'd love to hear from besides companions and those that you've met that you mentioned already?
Well, have we got Rittman on?
Yeah, we talked to Mark. Yep.
Because I've got something of his. I don't know why I've got it, but I've got the bus passes. I found it in my journal. I don't know why I've got it. So for his memory book, I'm more than happy to find it. I think there's Sister Siegmiller, which we spoke about, which was one. Alistair Martin, is he still in my stake? He was in my stake for a while recently. So I know Richard Midgley's been shouted up as well. He was in Sheffield stake as well. Rob Nettleship. Christopherson, can't remember. Yeah, because I saw that in my diary. There was a few exchanges with Christopherson, Betteridge, Streeter. There was was it Houth? I remember he was a big, stocky, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, Elder Houth.
Yeah, Elder Rhodes, and then Brian Barber. I think were the ones that, because as I've been listening. The ones that I've heard, it kind of was sparking some memories, and I don't think I've heard those names yet. So, but yeah, I don't know where. I mean, some of them I'm still in touch with, but some of them I don't know where they're at. I speak to Jason Ford as well. He's in touch.
What's he doing?
I think he's doing all right. He's just, I don't think he's active anymore, but he's in touch. I think he's just graduated from university.
Good for him.
Yeah, I'm in touch with him. I like Jason.
Yeah, he's a good lad. Well, of the ones that you mentioned so far, we are talking to Alistair Martin on Sunday. We're actually doing a companionship one with Elder McConkey. So that should be good. Elder Barber we talked to last week, and his will be published in the coming weeks, so you'll see him. But as far as the rest, we've got some work cut out for him, so we'll definitely put them on our to-do. I know Elder Midgley's been mentioned many times, so if you have contact with him, would you put us in touch with him?
Yeah. I think he's just moved, because he was in Sheffield State. I think he's just moved over to the States with a new job, if I remember rightly. So
okay.
I'll reach out to him.
Cool. That sounds good.
The different people onto the S.E.M Facebook group as well, just to get them into there, because I know that you've been kind of posting these in there as well. So I'm doing my advertisement.
No, I appreciate that. Well, I want to share this before we go, because this is proof that Ashley Devine had hair.
Oh, no way! Oh my goodness!
This is my Preach My Gospel cover I made in my last area, and it's got all my companions on it. So Elder Hardy's on there too. I served with him for a couple weeks.
I just spoke to him. It's totally weird. I reached out to him on LinkedIn and reconnected with him. I was just like, no, time just passes. I can't believe how much time's passed. So I've been chatting to him, letting him know about this as well. So
good. I need to reach out to him there too, because I've tried everywhere else and I haven't been able to get in touch with him. So LinkedIn, here it comes, Hardy.
Yeah, same with Parker. So Elder Coons and Ken Smith as well. I'm trying to reach out to them and reconnect.
For sure.
Oh man. Oh, memories.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time this evening.
No, thank you.
Especially with, we know you're busy with callings and work in church and family and all that, so really appreciate it.
No, I can't believe. Apologies, I just keep talking. So I can't believe what I love it, so sorry. Hopefully that brought closure to any questions people have had. I don't know. But yeah, I've loved it. I've loved reminiscing. I genuinely do. Just love thinking about it. And what you're doing, I think, is brilliant as well.
Thanks. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure. It's been an awesome journey down memory lane. So thank you, Ashley. We appreciate you. Bishop Devine, sorry.
Oh, no. Just call me Ash.
We're not in his jurisdiction.
Sorry?
Just Ashley. We're not in your jurisdiction, so just Ashley, right?
Ashley. I'm just Ash. Devine. Let's keep it like Mission. Devine.
All right.
Sounds good, mate.
Thanks,
well, we love you. It's good to see you, brother.
Yeah, you too. Love you guys. You take care.
You as well. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.